Warning, this episode contains graphic language, lots of barging around, tense working conditions, and as always, teen angst. Also, there will be spoilers for chapters 18 through 23 of Inheritance, Book 4 of the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. Listen at your own risk.
Is this a podcast, or is this just fantasy? We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. So join us if you want to nerd out. Time to start the podcast and see. Anyway, here's the show.
Hello, readers. I'm Dane Patterson, the host who also tries to ignore potentially dangerous situations by having a nice sit, a relaxing game, and a full-bodied drink when my problems rush straight at me. I really wish it worked as well for me as it does for Roran.
I wish most things worked as well for me as they do for Roran.
So true.
I'm Jacqui Lanier, though, not Roran Stronghammer. And is this a podcast or is this just fantasy? The podcast where the plans are harebrained as hell and our bosses might want us dead. But at least we finally patched things up with that dude whose job we stole. So some stuff's looking up. Mixed bag, I think.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
If you'd like to support us on Patreon, there's a link in the show notes. For this week's subscriber shout out, we want to thank Matt W. for joining the book club. Man, thank you so much. Helping to make this podcast possible.
Yes.
We made it pretty quick and painless to become a Patreon subscriber, I think. So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We like Matt W.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
You're the man, Matt.
Yes. You can also win some of the cool merch we made that's covered in fantasy nerd iconography. You just need to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and email us a screenshot of it at isthisjustfantasypod@gmail.com to be entered into our merch giveaway. We're going to pick winners after we wrap this season. And if you want to see the merch prize packages, if you want to see what you could win, they're on our Instagram at justfantasypod.
I think they're pretty cool. I'm pretty excited.
Yes, I'm stoked. Basically, you'll match us and the cool tumblers that we have here. And hats and stickers.
The whole thing.
Totes.
Go to the
So much
website,
stuff.
see the jumpsuits. Join us on this journey.
Yes. And before it's all aboard these stinking barges, Dane, I want to do a quick recap of the travel chapter Whiplash we covered on our last episode. So we started with Roran getting a promotion with a side of intellectual elitism, I think.
Yep, a little
becoming a captain for the Varden and being told that's the cap on his status until he learns to read. His new assignment is to break a protracted siege in 3 days, and if he can't do it, that honestly might be a part of Neswata's plan, in your opinion, for sure.
I don't know.
I'm a little TBD on that, but Aragon, meanwhile, starts a new 75 hard fitness challenge, getting back to practicing sword forms and sparring with the elves to resharpen his fighting prowess. And like a disembodied Mr. Miyagi, Glader finally re-enters the chat to drop some prime Zen warrior wisdom on all of our asses.
Oh, yeah.
But he retreats back into his Eldenari after one cryptic message, and I'm wondering if Glader is like Alagaësia's premier hinge fuckboy. He's like, you up, and then no answer. Not a lot of time to ponder that burning query because the Varden is rolling out, and Aragon is going to have to take his new workout routine on the road to Drosleona, which overlaps nicely, actually, with brother cousin Roran, who's also on the road, but he's stealing horses, running from vicious hounds, and racking up an impressive collection of bruises en route to Aros while the elite Carvajallers and Karn accompany him.
Yes. I love that you called them elite.
I mean, they're Roran's elite picks of all the Carvajallers.
Like, I can pick anybody?
Well, Baldur, of course. And we were like, yes. And then he was like, Delwyn. And we were like, who? And he was like, Hammond. And I was like, you made that up. But so back funny. To Aragon. He's made it to Lake Leona and has some leisure time to ruminate on Glader's advice and engage in borderline erotic sparring sessions with Arya. He goes to a bonfire party with Nargarshvog, Angela, and a group of werecat petting Urgles. And we learn some fun Urgle/Gal/spine lore, and Angela's storytelling just ratchets her kookiness up to 1,000,000.
Yeah.
And ever a teen in search of a lit after party, Aragon heads back to his tent to use his stump time skills to check the current temperature on his PR with the common soldier. Because he's like, just quick vibe check. What do you all think about me?
What are you thinking about?
I'll spy on you to find out.
He's Homeland Security.
Yeah, and I'm just like, dude, take it from somebody who publicly makes a fool of herself online, Aragon. You never read the comments section. Why would you do that? That is a joke. the people who comment on these videos are very nice.
They're super
very
nice.
kind.
Thank you so much.
So he decides to decompress by working on his journal and reading bedtime stories to Glader, and then is right back to Roran. His arrival at Aros is met with just a touch of resistance from the man he's relieving of siege command, because Stronghammer comes in hot, changing plans and running inspections to get the discouraging lay of the land here. But our brother cousin is a man who loves a harebrained plan, Dane, and he gets to cooking something up when he sees the canals and mills outside the city. We left him on the cliffhanger of convincing everyone, even Brigman, to get in line for we don't know what, because we wrapped up our last episode back with Aragon and Saphira. They think briefly about whether doing some war crimes will give them closure on some of their core wounds, and for legal reasons, this podcast cannot recommend that approach, listeners.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. Instead, they decide to tap in to help fortify the Varden's new camp outside of Drosleona when, surprise, bitch, Murtagh and Thorn rise from the depths of the city, backed by some magic-wielding cultists to set the stage for a tougher fight than I think we were expecting. Which one of Garrow's boys is going to break his siege first, Dane?
Well, it depends. Like, his Aragon's real siege is the one he's been waging with Arya.
Siege inside.
For-
Oh, I thought you meant with himself internally.
He's been trying to starve Arya out. He's like, if I just wait outside these gates.
No.
It's horrible. But who is to say? In the meantime, because we're about to read a very intense section full of death and violence, and since we are really getting to the end of the original series, with only 7 more episodes of this season.
That's wild.
I wanted to start with some lighter, fun, personal book club talk.
Oh, okay.
This
Yeah.
week. All right, so I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Which chapter book was either the first you remember reading,
Okay.
or one that your parents read to you? For instance, mine isn't Aragon, even though this is like one of the first ones I read. My dad read me a book that was a chapter book to me. So
What book?
He read me The Hobbit.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. So the fantasy runs deep.
Yes, it's literally the first book I read, and it was dope. I love that book.
Yeah, that would sell it for sure.
It's a great bedtime story.
Yeah, I remember, I guess, I know that they're chapter books, but it definitely is more child focused than either this or The Hobbit. But I remember being super into, it was kind of an odd progression, but I think it kind of makes sense. So run with me on this.
Okay, all right, let's go. Let's do it.
I remember really early on reading the Boxcar Children books. I fucking loved those. It's about like a group of orphans that lives in a boxcar. Kevin's nodding at me like he knows about the Boxcar Children.
Okay.
I was like obsessed with them, and I love to like play pretend as a boxcar child.
Oh my gosh.
My best friend.
I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, my best friend Nico and I used to like live for hours in my
In, like,
backyard.
boxes?
Yeah, pretending we lived in train cars and solved mysteries. So from there, it was a short jump to Nancy Drew, which I was obsessed with.
All right, there you go.
Yes, and then I remember it had to have been like 3rd or 4th grade. I was like full on reading Agatha Christie
In
mysteries.
3rd grade?
Yeah, dog. I was really into Agatha Christie, like way too young.
I could not read until 5th grade, so it's just wild to me.
Might have been 4th grade. I did try to shout out to my mom. I tried to text her to ask if she remembers what book I read first, because her memory is often so much better than mine about stuff like this.
Of course.
I will update on the pod if she answers, and I am so wrong.
Mid-pod? We're going to mid-pod update?
But
I want a mid-pod update. I want you to interrupt me from what we are doing.
hold, please. Laura's answered. But yeah, I often misremember small stuff like this. But I remember being like pretty young and like reading Murder on the Orient Express. I loved Agatha Christie books. I was into it.
So because of dyslexia, I didn't really read until, so like my dad reading me that, I would never have been able to read that by myself. So like my dad reading me that is the first memory. My first like books were this and Captain Underpants.
Yeah.
Remember Captain Underpants?
Yeah.
I killed those books.
Yes.
I hate those things. I loved those things.
See,
and Goosebumps, classic Goosebumps.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
See, I remember like reading Harry Potter. I got into that in the 3rd grade, and I kind of think, I know Boxcar Children was before that. I kind of think Nancy Drew was before that.
Nancy Drew's before that.
And I kind of think my Agatha Christie phase was either pre-Harry Potter or in tandem with Harry Potter.
It's so hard to look back now too, because
Yeah.
it's like I think Aragon's before Captain Underpants, but I think it's only because it's such, it to me was such the book. So maybe there is a Captain Underpants before there is an Aragon, but who can say? I don't even know.
The way we phrase things on this show sometimes is so
Clip it,
wild.
loop it. Okay, is there another author out there getting far away from childhood. Leave that tragic tale behind. Is there an author out there other than Christopher Paolini that you want to write something new, or like you want something from them?
Oh, I mean, yeah. Big would complete my life to have the Last Kingkiller Chronicle book out. Patrick Rothfuss put me out of my fucking misery and let me read that book. I know it's not going to happen.
I have a whole theory about this.
I know you do.
Yeah. Really quickly, I believe it's going to be published posthumously.
I know. I could totally get on board with that.
I get the Name of the Wind stuff. Yeah. I would really like either the last book in the second iteration of the Red Rising book. Like, I know he's going to get it out.
Yeah.
But I want it
You're
now.
waiting for it.
I would also love for Robin Hobbs to like go back to the Farseer trilogy.
Okay.
For various reasons that might be difficult for various reasons.
Just to Farseer, or like back to Realm of the Elderlings writ large?
I think back to Farseer.
Okay.
I like the fits.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you're a big fan of those, we should talk about it.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, I guess we gotta get to Aragon, though.
Yes.
We should
back
probably get
to these
it.
books. Speaking of more books coming out, I
Yes.
also, obviously not an allowed part of this answer, but I do want Christopher Paolini to put out more after Murtagh.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. I would love more. I've always been wanting that Brom book.
Yes, the Brom backstory reigns supreme.
That's the one I want.
Yeah.
And that takes us to chapter 18, A Toss of the Bones.
Ooh.
We snap back into this week's set of chapters.
Yeah.
With the strong hammer.
Oh, yeah.
And man, this is a fun section. We are outside Aros, and the gates are opening with hundreds of Imperial horsemen charging out towards Roran's camp. I don't know if you know this, Jax, but hordes of enemy cavalry charging your location.
Oh.
Not good.
Oh.
Yeah. This is a classic military 101 situation. Kind of a blitzkrieg situation, which is never good.
It's not great, Dan.
It's especially not great for our pal Roran, as most of the soldiers under his command have gone looking for barges in the surrounding area.
Stinking barges.
Yeah, he only has a small contingent in the camp, and the vast majority of them are injured or like useless.
Damn.
Yeah, that was the description I got. Yeah, it's a tough spot and a risk he took for whatever plan that we still don't know about.
Yeah,
but Roran hoped that the people of Aros wouldn't be so daring, and he is apparently wrong.
Oh, shit.
So Roran gets to work doing the only thing he does better than killing. Thinking.
He
just thinks so
He's
hard.
An introspective man.
Yeah, it's not the best environment for thinking, as his men are panicking, including Brigman, who immediately wants to flee. In his fear, Brigman pushes the strong hammer too hard here.
Not something you want to do.
No, this man might have a death wish messing with Roran's command like this. He essentially calls Roran a failure, selfish, says he won't let Roran kill the men of the Varden for his own vanity. Roran tells him, and I'm quoting, "Keep your muzzle shut or I'll shut it for you."
I feel like that's such a classic strong hammer. Just like, shut your fucking mouth or I'll shut it for you. And you're like, oh my God, he really would do that.
He's going to do it.
He would do that so hard.
Then he sets Baldur Strongbow on him.
Yes.
And with a sword, he's just like holding a sword at him. So if he gets out of line, Baldur can kill him. So,
Amazing. Just what you want.
I don't know much about Brigman, but I think the Varden HR department is going to be hearing about this one.
Yeah, that's definitely a bad workplace culture for Brigman.
Roran's workplace culture is for sure a bit intense. It's a kill or be killed type place. Never forget Yarbog, who got choked out for mouthing off like this.
Justice for Yarbog? Question mark?
He had it coming.
Yeah.
With his first performance review handled, Roran guesses he might have about 5 minutes to figure out what he's going to do before all these men are overrun by horseback. Why again? We're not gonna, I keep messing up these horse. Just know I'm not doing this on purpose, people. I promise.
Dane really wants the horses to be ferried around by the people.
I want them to be riding the people.
This is a fantasy book. Just give us what we want.
We want horses riding giant humans. He settles on employing confusion and fear of the unknown. Roran tells every man to hide his tent and be absolutely silent.
Spooky.
Then he grabs a wool blanket, a log, knuckle bones, mead, and his table, and heads to access to like a road set up, a little area where he sets up like without armor, like this little like play area, keeping his hammer intentionally on his belt.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm getting like big D&D vibes.
Yeah, when I read the collection of stuff, he was like, send for the table in my tent. I was like, what?
What is he doing? And then Roran asks Karn if he can make the air shimmer around him. And then Roran sits down and starts to play Knucklebones.
Yeah.
Like his father Garrow did on warm summer evenings. And dude, I laughed so hard when we learned Garrow used to prefer playing alone than playing with his kid. And I have to ask, why, Paolini? You always make the father uncle seem so rough.
Yeah, dude.
It's like Roran's fond memories essentially about his dad who wanted to play without him.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it
amazing.
is on brand for Garrow. You were like, did you read this part yet? What is going on?
What is going on? And like, also, it's like, what was Roran supposed to do? Read? Like,
He couldn't entertain himself.
No. So anyway, we can tell that we're not like outdoor kids because we're both like, if you can't play the games,
game, you can't read. What are you supposed to do?
What are you supposed
Well,
to do?
he could have gone out in the fields and played Boxcar Children.
He was farming. He was like, go pick the rutabagas.
That's so true.
Yeah. No time to think about our father uncle though, as Roran commits to the bit here right from the get go and decides he's gonna move as the horde of horsemen charge closer to him.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really glad Roran has decided like he's not going to count acting out of his list of possible post-war professions. He's really like going method for this. Like the way he got into this in this scene, I was like, you're not bad, guy.
He's not bad. He's gone full Daniel Day-Lewis. Like as the horses approach him, like ready to trample him, but then luckily they stop.
Thank God. That'd be a weird way to die.
That'd be the weirdest ending to his story. The commander, Theros the Quick, approaches Roran and seems like immediately interested in Roran's Oscar-worthy performance.
Great.
He comments on the mead, the game, the chill vibes, and he seems just a bit offended that he wasn't met with like weapons drawn. It's honestly a little funny. Roran insults Theros and basically acts crazy before revealing that he is Roran Stronghammer, Aragon Shadeslayer's cousin, and we get some Empire goss here, and I love that Theros recognizes the name.
Oh, okay.
And we hear that rumors have spread far and wide about our boy Roran. Word on the street of
Fear
Aros.
him.
Yeah, truly. Word on the streets of Aros is that he killed 300 men in single combat.
Nice.
And I love hearing about the Empire people's thoughts on our main characters. We never get enough of it.
They'd be so terrified, too. They'd be like, you mean he what?
Hey, what do you mean?
I hope he doesn't come to my city and kill everyone here.
Basically, this ends up going pretty much exactly as Roran plans. Theros, as magician, seems to be confused by Roran, and Theros himself essentially leaves with his cavalry in fear of the strong hammer. Yeah. It's totally a D&D plan. This was an intimidation roll, and Theros mage got a natural 1 on his will save. Or like maybe there was a Will DC Pathfinder 2 thing going on. I don't know.
So he rolled a natural 1. So basically the spellcaster is me when I play D&D.
Yes, exactly. This was fun. The men come out and immediately cheer. And Karn tells Roran that the reason he freaked out the enemy spellcaster is that the dude kept trying to pierce Karn's illusion for something like underneath it, something hidden.
Yeah.
But since it wasn't hiding anything, it took all of his energy and spooked him. So freaking cool. Karn's the man.
Yeah.
And just when all seems good, a man comes to Roran and tells him that for once, it's even better than good.
Oh my God.
They found all the barges they need to enact Roran's plan. Don't know what he's going to do with barges.
Nope.
It's a fun one for sure. Fun to start off.
We might find out what he's going to do with the barges.
Can't wait.
But that does take us to chapter 19, My Friend, My Enemy. We start this chapter with...
Sorry, just look great. It's just a great
chapter title.
Great chapter.
You love it.
Yeah.
We start this chapter with Roran sleeping fitfully the night before his assault on Aros. He wakes in the wee hours when he hears a thud outside his tent. And I thought Christopher Paolini like really nailed the tension in this scene as I was reading it. Roran is wound as tightly as ever, which I think is saying a lot for the strong hammer for him to ratchet it up like that high. But he's right to be suspicious here because after an interminable time waiting in the dark, a figure creeps into his tent. And it was like pages of him like waiting, tense, scared, like
holding
that's
his
why
breath.
I feel like Christopher Paolini
it
crushed it. And this guy creeps straight up like slowly over time to Roran's bedside, but our guy is fucking ready, Dane. As Roran throws his blanket, springs up to stab the man, the guy confuses Roran by yelling like, I'm your friend, don't do this. And after that, the fight really kicks off. And as Roran and his attackers scrap and scramble around, the stranger keeps telling Roran that he's his friend. And Roran is clearly jarred by this. And even though he's able to stab this dude to death in a frenetic, like close quarters brawl, he's left thinking about the gruesome and tragic reality of this war. And I'm wondering if you feel like the haters caught his emotional turmoil here, because it went on for a long time that he hated this.
I don't know what you know. I don't know if you know this about the haters, but they don't want to see it.
Interesting.
But this was creepy.
It was, yeah. But I digress. In the aftermath of the midnight attack, Roran is cut out of his collapsed tent, and he starts to debrief with his inner circle, except I loved it. He's like basically running around in what are his like old-timey tighty-whities covered in blood and just being like, so is everybody ready? Any attackers in the case of giving orders? It'd be a weird look for your boss, I think. Yeah. Karn, the MVP, as always, notices that Roran isn't only covered in the other guy's blood, he's sporting a giant gash across the middle of his chest. And the reason this wound initially went unnoticed also made me laugh, because it felt so gratuitously strong hammer. Apparently, the massive gaping cut wasn't bleeding because Roran had clenched his muscles so tightly that the blood couldn't flow.
This one was weird. Is that real?
I think like
this one was weird.
I don't
to me.
know.
I've never even heard of
heard.
this.
I feel like I've heard things adjacent to this.
Okay.
Like if you tense your muscles, when you go give blood or like you're getting shots, if your arm is tense, they can't like find a vein as well, or like they can't. The blood doesn't flow as well, I think. So they're always like
the flex.
they
and then
do
bring
not
people
ask you
over.
that.
They're like, look at this.
Oh my god. But as soon as Karn does get Roran to relax, the wound sprays blood into Karn's face.
Oh my god.
I guess no good deed goes unpunished. He's just trying to heal up his friend. But Karn manages to clean and heal Roran's wound. But he's clearly spent as soon as it's over, which is a little scary for our magician on the eve of battle. And Roran is exhausted too, but they both see the necessity of Karn mending the commander right before they march on the city, so I kind of get it. Roran sends Karn to try to rest up and resigns himself to the fact that he won't be getting any more sleep on this night. So the chapter wraps up as Roran is thinking of Katrina, of course. While he scavenges his belongings out of his ruined tent, now that it has a dead dude in it. And our last thought from Roran here is, again, the cruel and sometimes gruesome turn of fate that prioritize one person's life over another. Ahem. Haters. It's pretty cheerful, pretty good stuff.
Yeah, this is the thing about the haters, right? Like, they would just ignore that.
Yeah, this chapter just did not happen for them.
Yeah, and then like
except
it's
for when Roran stabbed a guy.
Well, I must say,
That happened.
also like if he was like intense in another section, they would just forget this part.
Yeah.
They would only look at it through the lens of that one section.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's our haters.
That's our
We
haters.
love you guys.
Yeah. Chapter 20, Flower Made of Flame. And this chapter starts with Roran and Baldur just taking in the beautiful day on their horses.
So nice for them.
Ahead of the Varden horde, chatting about Baldur's new sister. You know, just some casual light talk before you do murder.
Not casual. Not light.
They're like just chilling.
Yeah.
It's like a beautiful day. I think it's described like, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah, I think so.
They get to the mill and we see Roran's creation. There are 4 barges connected, making a 500-foot-long barge.
I love this so much.
With stacked slate and like flour sack walls.
Yeah.
That will act as like a battering ram that they're going to ride.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
The idea is that it should be able to break the gate. Mm-hmm. It's an insane idea. Roran has officially lost it right now. They have almost 700 men they then put on top of this barge.
Yeah.
It's a death trap.
It's cool. It's pretty cool, pretty fun.
It gets even crazier as they're gonna break the mill sluice gates to boost the water wheels, pushing the barge with like a natural force of water, basically a flood. This whole thing is a mass murder waiting to happen.
No, it's not Dane. It's the strong hammer.
So wild. As the water is released, they surprisingly just don't all die.
Amazing.
Which is very lucky to start.
One check.
Yeah. Roran is then yelling like a maniac at the polemen to push the barge faster.
I love it.
As they do, they almost immediately turn sideways and then break the bargestrosity in half.
Yeah.
But this crisis is averted, which gives Roran time for a rousing speech. He explains that a good deal of men will likely fall in the water when they hit the gate.
Cool.
So be ready to swim.
Nice.
Which I just would take off my armor here if I was a Varden soldier.
I would hop in just
ahead
from
of time.
the jump.
Yeah. Then he continues to say that things will actually be pretty dicey till they pass the second gate.
Dicey.
Since they'll be outnumbered 2-1 inside the city.
Oh, fuck.
You know, like uplifting stuff. He does try at the end to say some stuff about being remembered for 100 years and freedom.
Here.
But I mean, this is just insane.
It's psychotic.
Yeah.
It is so fun, though. Like,
it is a fun read.
Yeah, I feel like both of us reading this chapter were like, oh my God,
What's
Roran,
going
what?
on? The soldiers then hold their shields up and squat low. As they approach, they see the catapults and ballista they brought set up in front of Aros, with the 50 men who stayed behind to provide a distraction elsewhere on the city walls.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's all a big gamble, and man, is Roran really gunning for that promotion here. What's that saying in like tech? Like move fast and break things?
Oh, yeah.
Roran's a tech bro.
I can totally see that.
He's currently moving fast, and he's about to break things.
He's about to break so many things.
He does have a moment of reflection as he's about to die.
Incredible.
Despite his wishes to farm those rutabagas, he's a true warrior because he's realizing he's getting a little drunk on that feeling of battle to come.
Yes, Roran.
And that honestly, he fucking loves it.
Yes, Roran. Lean in, Roran.
No time to dwell on that moment of self-actualization, though, as the death barge strikes the gate hard.
Yeah.
Roran goes flying. The gate is cracked, but not broken all the way.
Okay.
And then it suddenly gives. Roran screams to duck so they're not all decapitated by the jagged hole. They enter like an internal docking area with like the dreaded second gate in front of them. So then Roran jumps on the walkways. There's like walkways in those areas.
Yeah. I also feel like we talked for entirely too long about like what this area is that they're inside.
Yes.
We're like, now is it like docking loading zone? Is this like
we had a really
the
long conversation about this.
Usual.
This is a real thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, he jumps on the walkways and they start to fight the defenders inside the little docking area. Stronghammer is delighted to be in battle.
yeah.
He is sick of the planning and waiting, and so he kills without mercy.
Hell yeah, brother.
As he makes his way to open a pedestrian gate into the city.
Okay.
It's so chaotic in here, it actually ends up being helpful because they're outnumbered. The Varden's outnumbered.
Yeah.
And because they can't get overwhelmed with so little space to fight. There's not enough to like crowd in around.
Yeah, you're kind of
Varden
funneling
soldiers.
the larger number.
Kind of like line fighting, essentially. Only 2/3 can even get off the barges.
Damn.
And what do you think? Is the third in the water, Jax?
No, I just think it's a lot of very small docks. You really want a bunch of people to be dead in the water.
We'll get into it in the hater segment. More Imperial soldiers come, and it seems that even with the benefits of surprise and close quarters, all might be lost for Roran's troops.
No.
But our favorite magician comes
Yes.
in clutch using fireball and
Yes,
lighting up some bags of flour. Just hell yeah, dude. He clears the way for the Varden soldiers, but not before lighting Roran's beard on fire.
That's right.
Typical like wizard in a D&D group. He like totally didn't kill his party, but he for sure did damage to like some of them.
What size is the room, you say? I cast fireball.
After that, Karn stops to take his short rest and eat his special calorie-dense pouch porridge. Gotta get some of his spell points back.
God.
You know what I mean?
Is that calorie-dense pouch porridge? Is that the same stuff you have to choke down after a heavy lift, Dane, when you're leaving the gym?
No, not right after the gym. You need some carbs, a little bit of protein, and then, like an hour later,
When in your fitness regimen do you eat your pouch porridge? Because I have to assume you're just like Karn. No,
2 hours after lunch, 2 hours after my next meal. I don't know. Me and Karn are the same.
You are the same.
And my section ends with Roran charging into Aros.
Oh yes, into the city, unto the breach once more. But that does take us to chapter 21, Dust and Ashes. We're picking up right where we left off, and the city inside of this canal gate is eerily deserted. So Roran's thinking that they may still have surprise on their side just because the first fight was so enclosed and people might have heard the gate break, but that'd be about it. And so he winds his troops through what he thinks frequently of as the filth-laden streets towards the city center. And the image of Aros under siege just reminded me of those pictures you always see of like trash mountains on the streets of New York. Not the kind of place you want to be caught in flip-flops. Nothing open-toed in Aros.
I love that.
But as they try to hurry through the city without raising the alarm, Karn just puts to sleep a terrified milkman. Roran and your beefy blacksmith boy Baldur mark a small patrol of soldiers on their own. But those trivial inconveniences don't stop them at all from making it to the inner wall virtually unnoticed. So we're still sneaking technically.
Yeah.
But the gate is closed, so Roran picks a small strike force to sneak through the open sally port, leaving Baldur with the rest of the army. And as Roran sneaks along the side of the wall, we get our second incredulous train of thought on how dirty this city is. And I'm just like, the more it comes up, I'm like, Roran, have you forgotten these people are under siege? Like, regular trash collection probably isn't like the main municipal priority in Aros for the last month.
I think Paolini must have read about like besieged cities, because this isn't the only time this comes up. So.
But I just love that Roran's like, why are these people living in squalor? Like, he's like elitist about it.
He's like, I hate these urban
dirty.
cities.
That's how he thinks of it. And I'm like, dude, these poor people, your army.
We don't have this on my farm.
No. Like, heaps of refuse aside, Roran makes short work of the 5 gate soldiers with the help of infamous troubled teen Mandel and 2 hardened veterans. And together, the 2 guardhouse groups raise the gate enough, like just enough to let the Varden into the inner city, but not before the alarm is finally sounded. So we're caught. Jig is up. Inside the gate, the soldiers of Aros form up with their magician at their head, and Karn gears up to take this hook-nosed asshole on. Roran tries to game out whether or not he and the rest of the Varden can help Karn in the magic fight, but our favorite spellcaster bucks up in his signature good humor, saying that the magician is his responsibility and he will face it.
So good.
As Karn locks up with his foe, Roran orders his archers to start firing on the other magician, and the rest of the soldiers, from what it sounds like, just like wait to attack. Everybody's just like chilling, watching them fight. It's a little odd, but it is very tense because everyone's kind of quiet. And Roran decides that they can't just sit there. Thank God. I'm like, good, strong hammer, yes, go. So he sends Delwyn to lead half his men to attack the enemy soldiers from behind. And as Roran's company begins to execute just a textbook flanking maneuver on them, the hook-nosed magician is distracted long enough for Karn to get an edge in their duel. But something goes horribly wrong, and it escalates so quickly because the 2 spellcasters start shouting, and Karn explodes like a little nuclear bomb, sending the entire square into chaos. And I'm just like, our guy, how could this have happened? Like, I remember being so shook when I read this.
Oh, this one got me.
Yes, it's one of the things like totally I remember between reads because we love Karn so much. Yeah. I'm just like, fuck.
He's just really interesting.
How could that have happened? And the way it all went down was so interesting too.
So surprising.
Yeah. But Roran regains his senses face down on the pavement after being next to an explosion. And I love the writing here with Roran in a daze. He like spits out his own tooth and then puts it back in its hole. It's like so gross to read, but definitely like heightened and evocative.
Yeah.
And that line of description continues as Roran grabs his hammer, sees the charred ruin of Karn's body, and charges at the other spellcaster who's still standing there. And as Roran rushes towards the man, something strikes him as odd about how the hook-nosed guy isn't moving. And we get to watch as Karn's death blow belatedly falls on this dude, his posthumous death blow. And it drains the moisture from his body as he desiccates in front of Roran's eyes, conscious, thinking, sentient until the very end. It is truly horrifying to read, but I have to say it is a hell of a swan song for our guy Karn, so fucking pour one out for the cleverest spellcaster in the game, dude. For Karn. To Karn. But the battle must go on, and Roran rallies his men to press on through the city to find Lord Halstead. As they finally clash with the scattered enemy soldiers in the square, Roran is fighting sluggishly, almost as though he's just been like blown up or something.
Yeah, weird.
But he's saved from imminent death by Baldur coming through in the clutch.
Oh, look at that. I don't ever think we've heard Albrecht save anyone.
Albrecht's not even here.
I guess that's my
Taking
point.
care of his mom and helping his dad make armor for the army.
All right, I'm just saying. I don't see that brother doing anything.
Well, Roran and Baldur and I guess some other people force the Imperial bloc to flee through the streets, and Roran marches his men relatively unchecked after that straight up to Halstead's front door. Once inside, we're treated to a reprise of the haggard, crazed Roran from like early Eldest as he's threatening some maids to tell him where Halstead is through his like battered and bloody mouth. His like tongue won't form words and his broken teeth. I'm just like, ugh. He's deeply unhinged in this scene, and I'm really getting the impression that the fever pitch of his wild plan plus Karn's death have sent him dangerously close to, if not over the edge. Like Roran is hanging by a thread.
I get the vibe that he's on the edge too.
Yeah. The youngest girl in this like group of maids lets slip that Halstead may have escaped the city. He He was like, okay, bye.
Nope.
This seems bad. And as they set off through the castle to find the guy, Roran collapses in like blinding pain just suddenly.
Oof.
He's been shot in the back by a barbed arrow, and it's lodged in one of his rib bones, is how it's described. And who else but fucking Brigman comes up to say, the archer's gone. He like shot you in the back, and we don't know where he is.
Brigman puts down his bow.
When I first read it, I was like, did I shoot him? Because Brigman's also like, I could cut the arrow out. I'm pretty well trained in this. And so Roran decides to put Baldur in charge of finding Halstead, and he keeps Delwyn by his side just to watch his back and lets Brigman get to work. And this horrible, disgusting, fucking sad chapter fades to black as Roran gets emergency field surgery from a dude who despises him. And I'm just like, what else could go wrong?
Yeah, well, we don't have to wait long. Chapter 22, Interregnum. We return to Roran in this chapter as he wakes sometime after the battle. All is quiet, and Roran has a fever and is extremely injured. I think maybe that arrow hurt him.
Pretty bad.
Nasawada almost got him with that whole no wards policy, Jax. That's all I'm saying.
If that's what she was going for, it would be just one more way in which she's really competent, really close to her goal.
I'm not criticizing her competency, just her ruthlessness.
Yeah.
We get a list of what ails him while he waits for Nasawada to call him on a magic mirror that the Varden apparently brought here. Was this originally in Brigman's possession? I mean, I just want to know about this mirror. Was it in the Brigman's possession?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it must be like they kind of have one to Islanzadi, right?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if all of the leaders of the army get a mirror.
That would make sense, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to radio over to your fellow.
Because all I'm thinking is like, just leave the army, abandon the army, sell the mirror, rich forever, right? Magic mirror.
Yeah, rich, but at what cost? You know, Dane?
Yeah. Also, they're connected to the army that's going to want their mirror back once they, the only people it can call. Anyway, that's besides the point. When she hops on the conference call for his performance review, they discuss Karn's death, which must be obvious due to Roran's condition. He'd be healed.
Yeah.
We would totally, like, pouring out for our homie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just
Karn.
feel so sad.
Already miss Karn, and he's been dead for like 10 pages.
Yeah, it's really sad. Roran gives Queen President the rundown, and she is shocked when he explains that they have the city well in hand. After that, we as readers, along with Nasawada, get an update on what's happened since Roran's blacked out.
Yes.
They took the city basically by just convincing the Empire soldiers to give up. He also explains that he might have inadvertently burned Lord Halstead and his little daughter alive when he had some soldiers try to smoke them out of his cellar. It was an accident, but that's one hell of an accident.
Whoopsie doodle seems to not quite cover it.
Yeah, I think if Roran could have read a bit, he might have known that was a bit of a bad idea. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so you're an intellectual elitist too.
Anyway, with Halstead's dead, his son Theros the Quick is now in charge.
Of course they're related.
Luckily for Theros, Roran was able to capture him alive.
Nice.
Guess he wasn't that quick. We get a bit about Theros calling Roran a creature other than human, with Mr. Quick going so far as to swear death on Roran.
Bold choice.
Theros better be quick if he's going to step to Roran like that. That's all I got to say. I kind of give this guy a pass, though. His sister did get grilled by the strong hammer. So I would be hot-headed, too. This is one hell of a burn, you know what I mean? And Theros really seems steamed at Roran. But his eyes are blazing with burning fury. Sorry. I don't know. And the situation might get too hot to handle. I'm sorry.
Just a tight 5 on like a barbecued little girl day.
Sorry. She's not
Classic.
real. It's not real.
Yeah, that's the tone of this podcast for sure.
After Roran's summary, Nasawada explains that she's sorry. I had more.
Of course.
After Roran's summary, Nasawada explains that she's going to send a fresh rebel resource from Douth to help Roran figure out who in Aros has sworn those pesky little oaths to Gavatorix to minimize the unrest there.
Yes.
Interesting little side note, this person would be, I think, the first we've seen with the ability to get into people's minds, but not the ability to use magic. Like on screen. We don't really technically see them on screen, but like a person.
Yeah.
That we know. I don't think we've seen a person like this before,
yeah.
but it's been
Have they talked about him?
I think they've hinted that they exist. Super interesting to me, just because I like the magic and stuff.
Yeah.
I love a side story, maybe a standalone with the main protagonist as someone like this. Basically, I want a less powerful main cast book for this world because
Yeah.
I think it could be really cool.
Yeah.
You know, like a heist plot, maybe.
Ooh.
Secondary magics.
Yeah. Well, somebody who kind of knows and understands a little bit about magic. So
Yeah.
it's not like Roran, who's just like, Karn, can you do this kind of?
Yeah.
But like, they have a grasp on it, but they can't do it.
Yes.
Super
I think that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Roran then goes on to say he only lost 42 men.
Dog.
42.
So I guess a third did not fall in the water, or they're good swimmers.
Yes, that is insane. So insane that Nesawada just sits in silence.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. It's like totally defies logic, as they for sure would have all died ramming into the gate. But it's all very cool. Nesawada in a surprising moment where I really questioned if she was trying to kill Roran. I did think maybe not. Seems genuinely concerned about Roran. And I have to say the way this section is described, I was too, because it sounds like he definitely needs like actual medical attention.
Yes.
He's all over the place in what he's talking about. He can't think clearly.
Yeah.
He's coughing and a lot of pain. When Asawada suggests that he'll heal up there for a bit, not only does he tell her no, he basically yells at her that he wants to come back to the camp to be with his wife and unborn child.
I mean, yeah, that's our Roran. I do like that she's like, you should chill. You seem pretty tense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Roran never fails to be a little unhinged too,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is, I think, what we all love about him.
of course,
Yeah.
that's our boy.
Nasawada does relent, and Roran says that Brigman can stay to keep command where he controlled the men after Roran died.
Yeah.
And, like, his skill is organizing. So he's like, it'll be fine, which is a nice move. It's surprising, but nice.
Yeah.
And maybe Roran is the ultimate politician. Maybe this is a long con to take over. He needs allies if he's going to take over Nasawada's spot.
I mean, that is exactly what she's worried about. That's kind of the problem.
Well, then, Jax, I present
no.
to you evidence that
God.
Nasawada does in fact want Roran
Oh,
dead.
my God.
And that she isn't really that concerned. She says, quote, I must admit, I never thought you would actually capture Aros. It seems impossible that anyone could breach the city's defenses in so little time with so few men and without the aid of either dragon or rider. He said, then why send me here? And then she said, because I had to try something before letting Aragon and Saphira fly so far away. And because you have made a habit of confounding expectations and prevailing where others would have faltered or given up. If the impossible were to happen, it seemed most likely that it would occur under your watch, as indeed it did. And I rest my case.
My God. I mean, her logic is sound. I find no flaws in that argument. All those things are fundamentally true.
Impossible mission in which she told him not to have wards, Jackie.
Yeah.
No boards on our boy for the impossible mission.
How are they supposed to siege Dracleona with Murtagh and Thorn inside if Aragon's exhausted keeping up wards on a guy who insists on ramming barges, on standing at the front of a 500-foot barge, ramming into a gate? Aragon would have died had Roran been warded.
She just watches Roran in one battle, and she's like, no more wards on that guy.
No. Until we figure out something else, that's going to be a no for me, dog.
And that is the kind of, like, where we end up in this very info-dumpy chapter.
Basically a long Zoom call.
Yeah, there's some compliments from Nasawada, and then she shares that the siege of Dracleona might not be going well.
Yes.
Which leads to you, I think.
Yes,
the siege of Dracleona.
That's me. Notice you just hand wave by all her nice compliments and the nice stuff she says to Roran.
I'm interested in facts, Jackie, not in words.
Oh my God. That does take us to chapter 23, Thardsvergûndnzmal.
Nice.
Did it?
You did it.
So the last chapter I was practicing and it came out a little less well than I wanted, but I will take it. The last chapter of this episode is a super hard pivot back to Aragon and Saphira just enjoying some precious alone time on the banks of Leona Lake. They banter a bit about Saphira's missing scale, and Aragon gives her an extra little ward to cover the spot, so she deserves wards. I thought this casual little respite with them was so endearing after all the chaos we just saw in Aros. But I guess they can't just lounge by the lake all day. So they head back to the Vardens camp thinking about how boring the siege has been. Naswada has kept the rebel army camped for days because they don't have a clear path to victory here over the combined magical strength of Murtagh, Thorn, and the cultists in the city. I think had it just been like Murtagh and Thorn with Aragon's Deadly Dozen, they might have chanced something, but now that they can see all the cultists of Hellgrind are like aligned behind them, we're not liking it. And another just huge problem on top of this is that the witch baby, and this is true, has refused to go to war.
What?
So they're all just in a holding pattern with supplies getting thin and soldiers getting antsy.
I mean, when we make witch babies, we expect them
to fight proudly.
We don't curse babies willy-nilly.
Yeah, it is like a long time they talk about like, well, the baby won't come with us. So like
so
our
weird.
magical might is really out of balance with the enemy.
I have to say, it is one of those things. Is like she is 2.
Yeah, it's correct.
A 2-year-old
Dane,
baby.
She looks 6.
My son is like little.
Yeah.
And it's wild. To me. Yeah.
Aragon does spare a quick and savage thought for how all this siege stress is making Queen President look like shit. I'm like, damn, lay off of her. Then he turns his contemplation to Roran's bravery at Aros, which he's heard about, and the recent arrival of the Dwarven army.
Yeah.
Yes, which means our best boy Auric is back in the mix.
Yeah.
Praise Sindri.
Praise
Thank you, Dirt Mommy, for bringing our boy home safe. So after a leisurely lunch and afternoon nap, their life is just so wild right now compared to Roran's. Aragon and Saphira go wandering over to the Dwarven side of camp and run into their foster brother just playing in the mud.
Because of course he is.
Yeah, and I think this podcast maybe has officially broken my brain because my actual first thought reading like Auric's back on screen, I'm so excited, but when he's playing in the dirt, I was like, oh shit, I'm so worried. Like, is he going through something really bad? Because what if he's drawing little pictures in the dirt?
He's doing the Aragon.
Yes, what if he's trying to cope? What happened to Auric while he was away? I was like, reading this, I was like, God damn it, podcast. What have you done to me? But praise be, he is not drawing pictures, thank God. He's sculpting a little mud ball.
Oh.
I don't know if that's better, like as far as psychological coping goes, but here we are. He does have a bit of an explanation for this, like art
praise
project.
Guntera.
Yeah, so that's something. He says what he's making is an Eroth-Knurl, aka a Thardsvergûndnzmal, which is a stone made from the earth.
That is
Thardsvergûndnzmal. It's, I mean, you know what? Oh, bless you.
That is amazing.
Thank you.
You're doing fantastic.
Really, really trying. I just looked at it again and I'm like, damn, did I miss a letter in there?
Nope.
But we can't. There's
fine.
no going back.
Yeah, we're going to come back right after. I'm like, amazing.
Amazing. It's a stone made out of the earth. Writ
Yeah,
large.
okay.
We love it.
You just described all stones, kind of, I think. But
in a way. So Auric, though, describes the process of mixing the mud and slowly drying it out over time until it's as hard and shiny as a stone. And Aragon and Saphira are utterly perplexed as to why someone would spend so much time making a stone ball out of mud. And Auric is like, I mean, have y'all ever heard of boredom? Frustration? Like 0 out of 5 stars, would not recommend. I just want to keep busy.
What?
Yeah.
Also, like, these guys sit on stumps.
Yeah.
And just, like, listen.
Meditate.
It's like, what?
It's like he's just doing stuff with his hands. I don't know. But he's like, we don't have shit to do right now. So just, like, leave me alone.
It's a
Or like,
siege.
yeah.
Famously
just let me make
boring.
my little art project.
Yeah.
One thing I did think was kind of cool and like a tiny hint of world building in this whole art project was that Auric explains the practice of making an Eroth-Knurl isn't just busy work for idle hands. It's actually an act of worship for the dwarves, symbolizing the life cycle from stone to flesh to earth back to stone.
You know, classic life cycle.
Yeah, how everybody, I mean, we were born from the dirt, and to the dirt we return. So
Hey, Sindri.
we don't have to make the dirt into stone along our way to worship our god Sindri. But for Auric to worship Papa Guntera, this is an important part. So I'm like, maybe he's praying for success in the army. Maybe that's the best he feels like he can do right now.
He's just praying.
Yeah, basically.
There's our king. He's praying.
Yeah, it'd be scary to watch.
Yes.
After they exhaust the topic of mud sculpting, luckily for us, because I no longer have to explain it, Aragon can tell that Auric still wants to get something off his chest. And sure enough, Auric confides in Aragon about the isolation he feels now that he's king. All the people he's known basically his entire long life are suddenly treating him really differently, and he's not bearing that well. He likes to have friends. He likes to be close to people, and he's like, everybody's just...
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, kind of a yes man. And Aragon does seem genuinely worried about the existential crisis that Auric is clearly having, but his only suggestion is that his foster brother should have brought his wife to the war. And Auric's like, no, she runs
She's
Remember,
the boss.
she's the CFO and
It's
like the COO.
It's like you didn't even listen when you came to visit.
Yes, dude. So that's not really an option right now. So that leaves Aragon and Auric just to catch up after this. And as Auric starts to spill like the dwarven political tea, we get a little update on where all those people are. He perks up a bit, which we love to see. So I think his connecting back with Aragon is kind of the only medicine here. And after that, this odd little chapter wraps up with Aragon and Auric reaffirming their trust and bond as foster brothers.
Hell yeah.
It is truly the most wholesome way we could have ended this episode summaries, because I have a feeling there's going to be some grim stuff in the wrap-up sections today. But before we get to that, I have my analysis, and I want to spend some time focusing on the main badass of this limited series we just read within the book, Roran.
It's time for analysis.
This section of chapters really feels like a contained story all its own in a lot of ways. And reading it closely for the podcast, I kept thinking that, like, if this were a TV show, get moving, Disney Plus, this would be Roran's big, like, standalone episode. You know, in the final season, this is like the Roran episode. And with everybody's plot lines hurtling toward the conclusion of the original inheritance cycle, I want to take this opportunity to celebrate our beloved brother cousin, the Stronghammer, and talk about his character arc.
Yeah.
So Roran has been with us from the very start of the series, with his appearance in the second chapter of Aragon, introducing us to a strong, stoic, salt of the earth, rutabaga farming young man, crossed in love and trying to build a life for himself. So that was a Roran we got right up front. Christopher Paolini said in a Reddit AMA that when he wrote Roran, quote, the inspiration was wanting to write a more mature character than Aragon, and also one who could serve as an older brother to a degree, and who also didn't have the advantage of magic in a world filled with magic, all of which makes him even more of a badass, I think. And
Yes,
that's something,
all of those things.
Yes, that's something we talk about, I think, a lot. I have a link for that AMA that I'll throw in the show notes.
Awesome.
Christopher Paolini clearly loves Roran as a character, but that's about as much as we know about him before Aragon leaves Carvajal. It's kind of a brief meeting our brother cousin, seeing some like core traits and not really being able to catch up with him until Eldest. But as soon as that happens, we're off to the races. From the jump, his characterization has leaned heavily on some beloved fantasy tropes, with Roran cast as the commoner with the ancient blood of kings, reluctantly assuming the mantle of leadership with his trusty warhammer in hand. Okay. You know, Dane, what's stronger, the hammer or the axe? That whole thing.
That one's for you, Wheel of Time fans.
Yeah. The extraordinary circumstances of the changing world force this ordinary man to shoulder heroic burdens, with the core motivation being to protect the people he loves. At his best, Roran's a character with the iron will and steadfast morals to do the right thing even when others can't or won't, regardless of the cost. But like any good character, Roran contains multitudes. And I think the dark side of all that determination and willpower presents a ruthless man who can justify violence in service of his monomania.
Yeah.
Is what we call it from time to time.
Yes.
So how did we get from quiet, simple villager to grizzled, indomitable military captain? It's been a bloody, badass, and introspective trek, and I'll try not to sound too much like a broken record about parts of it, because we have obviously dug into and summed up Roran's character arc along the way in a couple of previous episodes, analysis segments, seasons past.
Oh.
So
it's the greatest hits?
A little bit. In our finest, Roran's greatest hits.
Yeah.
In our final episode of season 2 on Eldest, I talked about Roran's journey across Alagaësia to save his village, drawing a lot of parallels with your classic, like, shepherd-style religious figures like Moses. And to that end, we saw Roran become a deeply reflective character, concerned for the welfare of not just Katrina, but all of Carvajal.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the book where we got his motivating value.
Yeah.
And when someone needed to take care and take extraordinary action to protect the welfare of all those people, Roran rose to the occasion time and again throughout Eldest, in spite of his uncertainty and self-doubt. So remember, we saw him grapple a lot with like how he was going to make these choices and like if he was doing the right thing.
Right.
And then in our third episode of season 3 on Brissinger, I picked apart Roran's plotline again, but that time through the lens of the hero's journey, because he had just used all the training from Eldest to fulfill his original call to action of rescuing Katrina, and I was hoping to see his arc come full circle as he reconciled what he was before with what he'd become. Yeah. And I'm sure that I'm confirmation biased. I know that. Don't come for me. But I think the rest of Brissinger, like watching Roran progress through the ranks of the Varden by gaining a steadfast confidence in himself finally, was a pretty spot on like return phase of the hero's arc, if you will. And I'll, again, like I have in the past, link like a article on the hero's journey if you want to read it, and Joseph Campbell's book if you really want to dive in.
It is dense.
Dense. But this evolution, I think what we've seen since has not come without a steep cost. And we've really seen the whole of Roran's character arc contain the undercurrent of his struggle to come to terms with all the things that he's done. He's in constant tension between his single-minded drive to protect his flock and the violent necessity of his life as a man of action, which really gets back, I think, to the heart of why I wanted to go so hard on Roran in this episode's analysis, because for me, like, the unshakable conviction he shows here in this like wild plan and the execution of them, coupled with the palpable toll his gruesome journey has clearly taken on him, is a perfect encapsulation, I think, of the Roran this series has forged along the way. We're never far from like the adrenaline pumping resilience and badassery of our Stronghammer, and we love to read it, but there is a deep, almost quiet tragedy in the scenes like after the midnight assassination attempt and the aftermath of the battle. I think it's exactly that dose of grim realism that makes Roran such a compelling, beloved character by a lot of people. Like, dragon or no dragon, he feels so real to people. People connect so much with like what he's been forced through and what he's become because of it.
Yes.
So I know at this point I have basically commandeered your deep dive to dig into Roran. But before we have to address the haters and I get all riled up in defense of our boy, I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite Roran moment in this series?
It's so hard because I thought a lot about this, and I do like the tier and boat stealing thing.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite, though. I like the wrestling with the Arbog.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
Greased up?
I like the greased up boys. Yeah. I like it because... I just I love Urgles, so that's the problem, right? It's a little. I'm already a little biased.
So fair.
But I like the idea that he beat him not being stronger.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. I just think it's a cool indication of how he. It's a little ridiculous, but in like those Sherlock Holmes movies where he's like calculating the punches in that like first fight and that first Guy Ritchie. I think made those.
Oh, yeah. Robert Downey Jr.?
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I think a lot about that moment for Roran. He's very much like that. I would love to see more of that, but
yeah,
that's beside the point.
I love that.
Yarbog.
That's
What about you?
I typically, can I pick a favorite? Do I ever just pick a favorite? No, Dane. I think it's such a good payoff at the end of Eldest. Eldest is just such a good fucking book.
Yeah.
And then the battle on the burning plains is...
Pretty cool.
Chef's kiss. So to see Roran like so evocatively belly crawling with his
towards the
hammer.
twins?
Yes, dude. Like, there's something so fun about that. And then I think hot on the heels of that, I love the scene where he and Aragon infiltrate Helgrind.
Why
and
did I
he
not
just
say
like
revenge?
one and done hammer blows a Rozak to death. It is
So
incredible stuff. Honorable mention. It's such a small scene, so I don't feel like it can be my favorite, but like the beginning of this book, again, when he's like running through the city with Aragon, Arya, Bloodgarm, like all these like wizards, superhuman wizards, and Roran, and they're just like bantering, and he gets to be funny a little bit, and he gets to be a badass, and I'm like, hell yeah,
He's
brother.
Like first, they're
hell
like following him.
Yeah, brother. Other honorable mention, and then I swear to God,
You're just mentioning every moment of Roran right now.
The funniest joke in the series is when Aragon and Naswada are like, if we locked Aragon, Murtagh, and Roran in a room, who do you think would survive? And immediately they're like, Roran.
Roran would definitely survive.
No question.
There's no way.
So on that note, I think that's a perfect sum up of Roran's character arc because he is that bitch.
Yeah, well, and we're not even going to do a deep dive this week.
Yeah.
My haters is a little long. But we got some fun questions from a listener. Thank you, Kylie, for sending us such a nice email. I've said this before, but it really made our days.
Yeah.
So before I get to the haters, I thought we could do some fun talk with some lovely stuff. So she created some fuck, marry, kills.
Yes. We have done fuck, marry, kill before. I'm sure we will do it again.
Yeah. So we have the first one. It's Irun, Triana, or Bridget. Fuck, marry, kill.
Ooh.
So not or, and.
Let's see. I think I'm going to marry Triana. I think she got shafted by being called a slatter, and she seems like she's a nice lady. She's a badass. We know she's in charge of the like wartime magician crew. Okay. And she notably is a magician. So like that'd be nice to be married to a magician. Irun, when we're in When we're in Farthendor for the elections, she definitely has a vibe.
Oh, all right.
But I think I'm dark horse well, maybe not dark horse for you, considering the way you usually talk about this. I think I'm dark horse gonna pick Bridget just because she's feisty, dude.
I was gonna say Mary Bridget.
That feels so right. Yeah,
she'll kill for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Irun. I didn't want to kill you, but also you are a sexual harasser. So
yeah. Oh hi. Okay, well, this next one for you.
Yes.
Martlin Redbeard.
Oh,
Nargashbra.
all three of Martlin Redbeard.
Nargashbra.
Oh fuck.
And Horst.
Oh shit.
This is a good one.
Oh,
Kylie, you did so good.
Kylie,
this is so good.
These are good. I mean, Horst would be such a good husband. Obviously,
hold on. This was made for you, by the way.
What?
These
three guys:
Marlon Redbeard, Nargashbra, and Horst. Kylie knows you.
She gets me. She gets me. Okay. Because Horst is obviously such a good husband, but Nargashbra is the most accomplished, smartest,
most philosophical, most educated. Yeah.
Strongest, most badass. That though, I think for me, that'd be tough to be married to.
Okay.
Be a little tough to be married to.
Okay.
And
a little intimidating.
Super intimidating.
Okay.
I would just constantly feel like, just tell me what to do, bud. I don't know. I'm sure you got this. I would just feel so like, just make me do whatever. I would wither under
the pressure,
under the excellence of Nargashbra.
Okay.
I think I'm marrying Horst because we know he's an excellent husband, and then I'm taking a tumble with Martlin Redbeard.
Oh
he
my
seems, I love that guy.
You do.
One hand is plenty of hands.
I knew you were fucking that Redbeard the moment it was on this list.
What about you?
With that, I'm clearly marrying Nargashbra.
Yeah,
We're gonna have beautiful
Yeah, you are.
children. I also think I'd fuck Marlon Redbeard.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I'd also fuck Nargashbra. I thought you were just going to pick him and kill the other two.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
I'm fucking and marrying Nargashbra.
Yeah.
I'm killing the other two together
Oh.
with Nargashbra.
That feels so right for you. Yeah.
I don't know. Horse is strong. Anyway, I don't know. Okay, here's the last one.
Amazing.
Last one we got from Kylie.
Yeah.
Bloodgarm, Orin, or Jormungandr?
Ooh. I'm going to kill Orin for sure. He is such a dick right now. He is rich, and I did consider
he's
it.
Powerful, rich and powerful.
I don't want to be powerful, but being rich would be pretty cool. And I think he's described as kind of hot. And
he's good looking.
Am common law married to a scientist, so I get it. But
there's something there for you.
Yeah, but not today.
Okay.
Not with this guy who is verifiably a dick. I am marrying Jormungandr and fucking Bloodgarm. I lied. I'm marrying Bloodgarm because he is a magician, and it would be great to be married to a magician.
An immortal elf?
Yeah, and I'm fucking Jormungandr.
Okay.
I don't care if he lives forever. I'll be dead.
I'm fucking Bloodgarm.
Yeah, we know.
Also fucking Bloodgarm.
Yeah.
The Sex Panther knows what's up. And I'm actually marrying Orin. I don't like him, but he's rich and powerful. And that would be a hell of a queen.
You really would be. I think you would temper some of his. I think you would find a way to talk him into doing the right thing.
That's the nicest thing you've said to me.
Yeah. I think you'd be a really good queen, Dane.
No, in seriousness, I would probably marry Jormungandr too, because he sounds like a cool
dope.
dude.
Yeah. Okay. I have a couple that I thought of
All right, here we
too,
go.
because I love to do this. It's fun.
All right.
Okay. Fuck, marry, kill Helen, Marcus Tabor, or Vedra.
Vedra.
Take your boy Oric's wife.
Oh,
That's
so
his
tough.
wife, Dane.
Okay. All right. We all know I was going to marry Helen the moment this was asked. We all knew it. All right. So I'm marrying Helen.
You maybe are married to Helen.
That's here nor there. I love you. To my wife who's listening. All right. I'm marrying Helen.
Yes.
The thing is, like most of this book, I don't know much about Marcus Tabor.
No.
So I feel like I can just kill him and it's fine. And look, I'm just going to fuck her. I'm not going to marry her, right? So I don't know. She seems like a fun time. So I'm going to fuck Vedra.
Wow.
But I love Oric, so this is tough for me.
To be honest, when I picked this list, I thought you were going to marry Marcus Tabor for the same reason you married Orin. He's an unknown. Who knows? He could be great, but he is in charge of a city, and Galbatorix let him live.
Well, the thing is with Marcus Tabor, he's in charge of the worst city.
So true. You
I'd have to
live in
there.
Drasleona.
I don't want to live in the slave trading, cult worshipping Drasleona.
What a good point.
Yeah.
I also am killing Marcus Tabor, but I am going to flip flop. I'm marrying Havedra. She's
Stealing him from Oric.
I am. Yeah, I love you, Warwick. I'm so sorry, but your wife is fucking cool. You'd marry too cool of a lady. So I'm going to marry Havedra because I loved her. And also Helen seems feisty. Much like Burgett.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the same appeal for me, too.
Okay, last one.
Okay.
All elf bracket,
Let's do
Dane.
it. Let's do it.
Vanir, all tertiary elf bracket
All right.
is what I should have said.
Right.
Also not true, never mind. Not tertiary.
They're
You're
not-
going to be mad at me for saying that in a second.
Okay, here we go.
Okay,
Here we go.
Vanir,
Okay.
Runan, Elda, Oramus.
Tertiary.
I know, I was like, oh.
Okay, I know exactly what I'm doing. I am rolling around the hay with Runan Elder. You don't live that long. You know what I mean? She knows some things. Maybe they don't do anymore. You know what I mean? I haven't been seen in Alagaësia for 1,000 years. So
true.
Runan Elder and me are getting it
So
on. She's probably strong, too. She can hold me tight. I'm marrying Vanner.
Oh,
Actually.
hot take.
Yeah, I'm marrying Vanner because Oramus is the same to me as you said Nargazbra was for you. I don't want to marry a guy who's been around for 1,000 years or whatever, like 2,000, 3,000. I don't want that baggage. She's got a soul bond with someone else. You're the only soul bond you have is with me.
And he's fucking perfect. Like every time you have a problem, could you imagine having a fight with that guy? Like fighting with that guy about the dirty dishes?
No.
Even if he's wrong, you'd just be like, "You're so right," and I have a and you're like, "You're even better than me at this."
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. No, so I'm doing Vanner, and I like Vanner. I think Vanner's feisty.
Yeah.
I think me and him could have late night talks arguing about stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also was going to kill Oramus, and now I feel bad about it.
Poor Oramus.
I know. Maybe I'll marry Oramus. Well, I was just going to kill Oramus because he's our dad.
Oh, no.
And I neither want to fuck nor marry him.
Well, daddy's her thing.
I know, not for
Oramus
me, though.
could be your daddy.
No, I'm good.
You
thank
hated that?
I hated it
wow,
so
I'm
much.
so sorry.
I think I would marry Runan, though.
Okay.
She's so talented. You would still get to fuck her, but like forever.
This show has gone off the rails.
And I would fuck Vanner because he is super hot and in shape. And
Yeah. He's perfect. He's an elf, right?
Yeah.
So they're all perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry, Oramus. You know who would also kill
First, I
Oramus?
called you tertiary, and then we both killed him.
Murdered you.
We love Oramus. He is one of our favorite characters.
Well, that's I think why we didn't want to marry or fuck him. We were like, he's better than that.
So true.
You know, I have daddy issues, but they're not that type of daddy issue.
Same, yeah.
Well, you know who'd also hate Oramus? The haters.
I'm sure they do.
Actually, you should do your research, huh? Have you even read it? How you pronounce it?
What are the haters saying?
No, there is an index in the back,
No,
right?
this is a highly
So it's just a
derivative.
copycat.
Here we go. This week for what are the haters saying? Also, before we get into this, I'm sorry. No, I gotta stop. Haters, be gone for a second. That was fun. Thank you, Kylie.
Yes, thank you.
I had
Kylie.
a lot of fun doing that.
You know we get too into it. You knew what you were doing when you said
yeah,
this
we thought.
question.
I feel like we give it real consideration.
Well, it's important. These are big decisions, Dane. I don't just fuck anybody. I would marry anybody, though.
That's so crazy. All right. On that note, we're getting into what are the haters saying. This week, for what are the haters saying, I will be talking about the Strong Hammer. That's right. It's a roaring heavy episode this week, and I think we all knew what the haters were going to be saying about him. So last season, I refuted why Roran isn't just a psycho, and we talked a bit about his incredible feats, some of them being less believable than others.
I guess.
This season, I'm not going to be treading back into the bloodthirsty, evil killer hate.
Yeah.
That Roran gets it all.
Fuck that.
I stand by my previous points, and I think even with what we have seen so far in this fourth book, they still stand with some of the stuff you pointed out.
I was just going to say,
section.
even the stuff that's in this section, it comes up all of the time.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't get it. Whatever. We're moving on. For this go around, I want to talk about the incredible feats side of things.
Okay.
More specifically about how crazy Roran's plans and actions were in this section.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So first up, there is no
Shut
surprise.
Up,
Yeah, we can just wrap it up. So first up, there's no surprise that many people online have trouble with Roran tricking and intimidating the Aros cavalry when he was
acting.
helpless. He's the power of
He's
thespian.
Juilliard trained.
We're off one. We are like on a rampage right now. This is an example haters bring up to express the eye-rolling way Roran is kind of a Gary Stew. He brings, like, he's great at everything and just can't ever lose. Frankly, even in the Aragon subreddit, where there's a lot of love for Roran, this gets talked about a good amount when the posts come up.
Okay.
So let's dance, haters. Let's
Get him,
dance.
Dane.
I'll go to bat for this situation.
Okay.
Where Roland rolls knuckle bones with a little magic drama from Karn. A little magic je ne sais quoi, if you will.
Yes. I will.
I'm pretty sure this moment is meant to show that Roran is such an ingenious commander that he's able to employ the empty fortress strategy without even knowing what it is.
Who knew?
This is a real strategy that I'll link in the show notes,
Okay.
like 2 or 3 things so you can read about this.
Cool.
They use reverse psychology to trick an enemy into leaving a fortress that is, in fact, empty or woefully undefended.
Oh.
You scare your enemy into confusion, or you create a fake trap in their minds.
Okay.
Through your commander's like confidence, like, oh, this guy always does tricks, reputation and trickery.
Yeah.
This is a real thing, and I'm not making it up. And
Damn.
apparently, this has been done before in battles.
Really?
So there's a link with some battles where this was done. It's really crazy.
For the first time, I have to go click the link in our show notes.
Yes.
Damn.
You can read about some of that as well.
That's cool.
It's really, really fun. I would say that this is my whole defense for this moment, haters. Roran is a storied hero at this point in the books.
Mm-hmm.
He's renowned for defeating almost 200 men in one battle, killing a Razak, evading Gal's troops with little more than common villagers, and even wrestling an Urgle and winning. Beyond that, he's Aragon Shadeslayer's cousin, and to the soldiers of the Empire who have seen their like wanted posters side by side since the beginning of book 2, there's probably an air of like mystique that Roran gets.
Forgot about those wanted posters.
It seems so long ago, right? His reputation and his family aren't the only things that I think aid him there, though, and I think like his buddy Karn's assistance is largely forgotten in the discussion of this scene.
Justice for Karn, haters. What the fuck?
Truly, because
How are
Karn
you forgetting that in all of this?
it just doesn't come up, right? Because they've couched it as a Roran like.
I mean, it does
issue.
seem insane. I will grant you that, but I feel like once you're like, this has happened, I'm like, okay.
Well, it's happened, but then I do think Karn's the biggest part of this because like Karn absolutely freaked out the enemy magician.
Yeah,
his little trick confused the hell out of that guy.
Yeah,
not believing what he was seeing or not understanding the situation. He tried over and over and over to break the illusion. He drained himself of his ability to like fight should that arise. Now, I would guess Theros the Quick has to take his magical cues from the guys whose job it is to figure magic stuff out.
Right.
And if this magician is drained and scared with the rest of the bluff, the original like empty fortress thing, I think it makes sense to just be prudent and play it safe. Yeah. Go back in the city. Remember, we've seen Duvrengar Garda that even the people who know magic don't know much about
so
magic.
True, yeah.
It's like even the name, right? Duvrengar Garda, it's Dugrada Vrengar is the actual way you'd say that.
Oh,
like,
that's
remember, we
right.
even know the conjugation of that is not right. So it's not like you would be confident you knew it was a bluff, right? I don't think the scene is exactly perfect. We did make fun of it at the top of the show, but I do think it's not what the haters are saying.
It changes my opinion, though, so much to know, like, people have pulled this off. I feel like it's one of those like stranger than fiction. Like you can't tell some stories in movies because nobody will believe them, and yet they happened. Like people tone down, I know, like biographies, biopics, that kind of stuff all of the time. Because they're like, I just can't even put that in there because nobody will believe it happened.
What's the book I read? I didn't believe it. I went and double checked. It's that guy who like survives in the ocean and he was like a runner.
Oh, yeah.
And then he like gets in those camps in Japan.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this cannot be real.
I keep wanting to say
so
Lone
many...
Survivor, and I know that's not it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I can't. We'll link that book as well. Why not?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I that is absolutely real with the hundreds of like eyewitness accounts. And it's just like, what? That's wild. Anyway, now the thing that happens in this section on the barge, that's different.
Why, Dane?
With the flour sacks and the sluice gates and the water wheel plant. And I couldn't...
Quiet haters.
What's funny is I couldn't find as much hate. Like
Good,
there was hate.
This is fun.
But it wasn't as much. But of the two, I think it's the one that bothers me more, personally. First, let me say that I think it was cool, and I enjoyed the heck out of this, but I think this goes a fair bit more towards the party of the Gary Stu element of the Roran than the first example. First, I think the 4 barges combined would have broken when they hit the gate.
Yeah.
There is just little reason for me to believe that they had enough force to break the gate.
Yeah.
But also, like, just didn't break. But alas, I'm not an expert in building barges nor gates, so this might all make perfect sense. Which brings me to the thing that has always bothered me most about this collision between the barge and gate is the men on the barge.
Yeah.
The men would have been thrown off the barge, and just the battle that they were already almost lost because it was, like, unbalanced.
Dicey, yeah.
They would have lost. Again, I could just be wrong about the engineering here, the like physics or whatever, but it might be doable, but it's not a big deal.
No.
But I don't know.
I do think that's funny when you say it. The like just scaring a guy off seems crazier, and this like has the air of like, yeah, maybe that'd work. But when you break them down, you're like, no, this was crazy. This was an insane thing to do.
Well, also we were talking about our lake boat like era.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've been in boats when they're moving. You fall if like they move too much or I don't know. So either way, I think the biggest issue this week for the haters is the sheer quantity of successes Roran has. Doing all these crazy wild plans throughout these 4 books. And I think this is especially pronounced in comparison to our dragon rider.
Yeah.
Whose plans require constant training, magic, allies, and a dragon to support him, but like still comes up short often.
Yeah. I feel like that reminds me of something I read a little when I was like kind of digging into Roran's character arc, and Christopher Paolini said in a Q&A on his own website, and I'll link that. We're just constantly, I'll link it in the show notes. Yeah. But Christopher Paolini said, Roran has already grown up. He knows who he is and what he wants. He's already passed through the awkwardness Aragon is still dealing with. I think there was a lot of intentionality behind Christopher Paolini wanting to portray Aragon as coming of age in a very like teen to adult way, the way you kind of read this series often for the first time. I mean, totally. We obviously read it when we were kids. And then Roran has this air of like, he's coming of age, he's coming into his own, but more as like a young adult into like a husband and a father and like a man steadfast in his morals. So I think in some ways it makes a little sense to see like somebody have a better idea of the world before taking on a lot of these challenges. Not that like, I mean, they're both from Carbajal, but I think that was the intention behind writing it like this.
Yeah, I think maybe that works. I do think a little more failure on Rowan Stronghammer would help.
Yeah.
A little bit more success on Aragon would help, just like writ large, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, that probably makes sense. I mean, I get the intentionality of comparing them in this way. But I think that's what haters are actually speaking about when they're upset. I don't think any of these things on their heads like really bother them.
I mean, it's never about the dishes, Dane.
Yeah, exactly.
We get it, haters. We see.
And with that, I'm done with you haters this week. And in fact, I think I might be done with Roran hate for this entire season. I think we may feature in possibly one more section down the line.
We'll see.
But it's been a while since I've read this last book.
Stay away from our boy.
Maybe with new eyes, I won't have to give one of my favorite characters in the book any hate. But for now,
good.
Be gone, get gone, haters.
Good.
And what a week.
I know. This was so fun. I mean, it's one of those things that you're like, it was kind of bonkers, but the whole time we read it, and like we read these things a lot of times when we're writing these episodes, we read them slowly, we read them together, we talk the whole time, and like we're like, holy shit, Roran's so fun.
Yeah, like, it was fun.
It was a good read.
It gets a little sad at the end with the whole Karn thing.
Yes, for sure.
But
R.I.P.
We're not going to dwell on that.
Way to bring it down.
I know.
Dane. Much like Aragon, why don't you just keep it moving?
Well, I don't know. What I do kind of want is some cult craziness with a dash of Murtagh next week.
Yeah.
I want Paolini to get weird with it. You know what I mean?
Do. Why wouldn't you?
I want to get into it.
Weird. Why would anybody get weird on this podcast?
Not us.
We're so normal.
You know, people listen to this and they're like, man, these are two well-adjusted, normal adults.
You're our people. You get it. We are, by and large. We're unhinged a little bit when it comes to fantasy books. Sorry, not sorry.
And on that note, thank you for listening. Make sure to rate and review on Apple Podcasts.
Yes.
To be entered into our merch giveaway.
Woo!
And don't forget, you're only entered if you confirm with an email to isthisjustfantasypod@gmail.com. It's the same place you can hit us up with questions, feedback, and recommendations for other books to cover on the show.
Yes, and if you want to keep pace and read along with us, continue reading along with us this far in. On the next episode, we'll be covering Chapter 24, The Way of Knowing, through Chapter 31, The Tolling of the Bell. That sounds ominous.
It does.
Or is this just fantasy? We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. Come on and listen to us next time. Find out what our deep dive will be. Thanks for catching our show.
Come here, boys. Before we get back to Drasleona, you know what we need to do. We're here to bury a great man. Karn. I called him my friend. Karn, my right hand. No better magician in all of Dverngurgada. He wasn't the strongest amongst them, but all the better because of it. Stood by my side no less than 5 times in battle. Fought the Laughing Dead. Protected me. The Battle of Deldarad. 193 men, they say I killed. I say I would have killed none if it wasn't for Karn. Led Urgles into battle, shoulder to shoulder. Saved all our lives here at Aros. Not a man he didn't heal, not a man he wouldn't have protected with wards. Karn. He had no title, and I say he needed none. Steady as they come, Karn was. Karn. Man, I'm gonna miss. A friend I'll never forget in all my days. A man I thought I'd see till the very end. Karn, you'll be missed.
Strong hand?
Yeah.
Gonna forget him, are you?
I wouldn't do that.